A lot of you are probably familiar with some of the most famous mythical creatures from Central and Eastern Europe, things like the vampires and werewolves of Transylvania, the strigas and lashes from the Witcher series, or creepy yet wise old ladies like Baba Yaga. But the real folklore of this region goes much deeper, with legends you probably never heard of, like stories of one-eyed monsters who dig up graves, or wild naked forest girls with sharp fingernails who drain people's strength, stuff that hasn't yet made it into the global mainstream. Hi, I'm Anna, a villager from Transylvania. I call myself a Transylvanian because I started making content when Resident Evil Village came out, and it's set in a Transylvanian village, just like where I grew up. So no, there's no geopolitical agenda here, please stop harassing me. I'm just making videos about random topics related to Central and Eastern Europe, from weird cultural practices to old movies and mythology. And in this video, I will show you my version of the Central and Eastern European mythology iceberg. This was inspired by a Reddit post that I found about Slavic mythology, which I thought could use some extra Baltic, Albanian and Romanian myths as well to be more complete. So we will check out mythical creatures ranging from familiar beasts to obscure monsters and cursed spirits that rarely get talked about. And at the end I might even share some sources I use for these types of videos. So without further ado, let's dissect this topic. In the first tier, we'll go through the most popular ones, those that fantasy books, video games and movies made famous. Vampires, or upirs are undead creatures that feast on blood. Although these creatures appear in mythology across regions from East Asia to North Africa and Latin America, Bram Stoker's Dracula popularized the version, often linked to Transylvania due to the book's setting. But fun fact, this type of vampire originates from Serbia, with no connection to Transylvania, and according to Serbian folklore, people who live immoral lives, die natural deaths, or receive improper burials can turn into vampires in 40 days, transforming from shadow to humanoid that leaves the grave. People believed sticking hawthorn pegs in graves, using garlic and wine in rituals, and making furrows around villages with twin oxen, or burning red wool around graves could keep them away. Werewolves, Verkolacs or Rikolacas are people who have a little furry glow up through magical rituals or lunar influence, becoming demons bound to human bodies, able to consume the sun and the moon, causing eclipses. A person can become a werewolf or a Verkolak by performing rituals incorrectly or killing a sibling. People banish them using metal sounds, ringing bells, or striking iron to ward off the demon. And these Romanian Verkolaks also appear in Resident Evil Village, but they are some sort of moldy mutation or whatever things are in that game. Baba Yaga is a creepy old lady living in woods, in a hut standing on chicken legs. People often use her as a boogeyman to scare the pants off misbehaving kids, because in some stories she is evil and she steals children and traps their souls, which is why some folklorists describe her origins as a euphemism for abortion. Plus, she causes illness and carries disease. But in many tales, she is wise and cunning and even helps the protagonist or gives them impossible tasks. She famously appears in Vasilisa the Beautiful, an East Slavic tale that Russian folklorist Alexander Afanasiev published first. There are many variations of this character across the region. In Czech mythology, there's Jezi Baba or Hedgehog Granny. In Romania, Baba Klanca or Crooked-Nosed Granny. Hungarians have Vasaru Baba or Iron-Nosed Granny. And South Slavs have Baba Roga, the Horny Granny. Oh, wait, that sounds bad. Granny with a horn, that's the right translation, Granny with a horn. Striga or Strigon is an undead creature similar to a vampire, with two sets of teeth and giant claws. Found at night in barns, woods and crossroads. People born with two hearts can become a striga after dying young, as one heart stops while the other creates a vengeful bloodthirsty creature who rises from the grave to hunt down those who wrong them. To prevent this, people had to burn or decapitate the corpse, or someone had to sleep in the grave until dawn. This creature was popularized by the first Witcher short story, which is a scene-by-scene retelling of a legend that Polish folklorist Roman Zmorski published. The thing is, Sapkowski changed the cobbler boy, who was the main character of the story, to a professional monster hunter because he hated shoemakers, like many Romanians do. Similarly, the Romanian strigoi are souls of deceased individuals who don't find peace after burial and return to cause misfortune, drain life, and spread disease like Western sex stories do. People who were evil or died violent deaths can become strigoi, and villagers try to stop this by stabbing or burning the heart, burying the coffin upside down, or placing stakes in the body. They believed that strigoi transformed into animals on St. Andrew's Night, which is basically the Romanian Halloween, and villagers rubbed garlic on doors as protection. Zmej is a villain in Slavic tales, with two different descriptions depending on the region. In some areas, people describe Zmej as a multi-headed, shape-shifting dragon with a body covered in red or green scales, iron claws, residing in mountains or forests. He can speak human language and transform into a handsome man to trick and kidnap young women. So, girls, listen up, don't trust pretty men. In other areas, people see Zmej as a protective creature who shields families and crops, controls storms and rain, and ensures safety of land and people. But some people haunted this creature because they believed that consuming the heart of a Zmej could grant superhuman strength. People often confuse Zmej with Zmeu from Romanian folklore due to the name, but in most stories, Zmeu is a humanoid villain who creates artifacts or weapons and kidnaps women, especially in tales of Frumos, the Romanian Prince Charming. In other stories, he can fly, breathe fire, and transform into other creatures. Now that we covered the mainstream ones, let's dig a bit deeper. I just found out that you're not subscribed to my channel.
Why?
Subscribe. The Witcher saga, especially Witcher 3, brought Slavic mythology to global fame. So let's dive into the creatures that gained popularity thanks to Sapkowski, and a few more ones which became popular thanks to similar media. Leshy, also known as Lesa or Borovi, is a forest spirit people describe as an old man with beard, antlers, often surrounded by animals. He appears to woodcutters or hunters who destroy trees or kill animals excessively, and if people respect the forest, Leshy can help and even guide them safely. According to my Native American viewers, he kinda resembles the Wendigo from North American mythology, not to be confused with Wendigo. Rusalkas are water spirits, similar to the Romanian Rusali, who are beautiful women with pale skin and long hair that can turn green, like me when I was younger. They have a tendency of luring people, especially men, into water with their singing, and in old myths, people first imagined Rusalka as a fertility spirit, which later turned into a ghost of a drowned or betrayed woman seeking revenge. She also appears in Catherine Arden's Winter Night trilogy, you know, the only Western author who actually got Slavic mythology right, and they are similar to Romania's Stimape, the water pixie, which is also the main character of Maria Surducan and Pensiliana's comics. Poludnica is a mischievous ghost of a young woman who appears at noon in summer fields wearing a white dress. She tricks people into dancing, gives them riddles, and steals teeth or rotten flesh, and she targets people who nap or work alone in fields, especially immoral men, or those who break harvest traditions. People believe she died near her wedding day, that's why she's wearing white, and to stay safe people avoid fields at midday and perform rituals. Legend says she vanishes during winter and only returns during the summer heat, which might just be an old-timey myth regarding heat strokes. She also appears in the Witcher games as Noon Wraiths or Lady Midday. Poronyets is a spirit people believe comes from the soul of a child who died before birth or too young, without a name or a proper burial, becoming an envious spirit who never got a chance at life. They appear at night, sometimes as bird-like infants, specifically attacking pregnant women and children. And yes, that's like the demonic baby from Witcher 3 that probably traumatized all of us. Similarly, Lataviet is a night creature tied to storms and winds, and people believe it comes from the soul of an aborted or suddenly dead child, taking the form of black birds or winged humans. People originally saw it as a helpful spirit if they were appeased, but Christianity later demonized it, associating it with devils and unbaptized souls. The female version, Latavica, also became a euphemism for, how do I put this, a woman of ill repute.
Wanna dip your dingo?
Then there's the Romanian Moroi, which people describe as the spirit of a child crying at night, begging for baptism, who rises from the grave to ruin people's lives. In parts of Transylvania, people use the word Moroi to refer to witches or sorcerers who steal milk and the life force from cows, which is a form of food-based vampirism. In the south, however, people consider Moroi identical to Strigoi, and the female version, Moroica, also appears in Resident Evil Village. Plus, you might also know them from Grey Dawn, the video game.
We are both pure of sin. We are children with died on bad times. We are called my.
Kikimora got completely misrepresented in Witcher as a giant spider-like monster, but in Folklore she's a female spirit, a strange-looking woman lurking in dark corners, making creepy noises and giving people nightmares. She usually appears if a child dies before birth or if someone curses during the construction of the house, which is probably very common because I can't imagine an Eastern European construction worker not cursing by working. People used to protect themselves from her with putting paper in keyholes or broomsticks near doors, and in some stories she even helps with the chores at night. Speaking of misrepresentations, in Resident Evil Village, Samka shows up as a feral bat-like monster under Lady Dimitrescu's control, but in Romanian folklore, she's a dangerous spirit who harms children and pregnant women. She appears as a naked woman with loose hair, glowing eyes, iron hands and claw-like nails, and a fiery tongue, and titties dragging on the ground. She can also take other forms like a giant pig, a snarling dog, hairless cat, a bloody-eyed crow, or a big spider. She appears near full moons to frighten children or strike pregnant women with death or birth defect. And to stay safe, people had to write her 19 names on the wall. Domovoys are household spirits, described as old men who live in attics or basements, and if people treat them with kindness, give offerings like bread or wool, they bring good luck and peace. And if people ignore them or anger them, they bring chaos and pain, which is a very relatable feeling for all Eastern Europeans. Wait, be right back, I have to go leave out some bread. Fun fact, it seems like the Domovoy has some riz, because in some stories apparently he is also dating the Kikimora. The Domovoy also appears in Arden's Winter Night trilogy, which is pretty cool. So that's it for tier 2, let's dig a bit deeper. This tier features characters popular in their regions but not globally recognized. Koche the Deathless is an incel-coded villain from East Slavic mythology, often depicted as a skeletal sorcerer who abducts women and wields dark magic. He achieves immortality by hiding his soul in a needle, an egg, or chest buried on an island, and to defeat him you have to destroy his hidden soul. Some say that his name comes from the word for bone, referencing his undead look, and some also say that Aradin from Witcher 3 might have drawn inspiration from him. Now, dragons exist in nearly every mythology, from East Asia to Persia, Africa, Aztec and Inca myths, as a large, scaly, flying lizard that breathes fire. But they also show up across Eastern Europe, where pagan myths blended together with the Christian story of Saint George and the Dragon, which inspired some of my favorite statues in Central Europe, as you know. Now let's speedrun some draconic creatures. Sárkány or Sárkán in Hungarian and Slovak mythology is a scaly rainbow-colored dragon with wings and claws set to hatch from a rooster's egg. Wait a second. And they live alone in caves or tree trunks. They are very tough to harm, and they like to kidnap the ladies. The dragons of Polish and Belarusian folklore are called Smok, most famously appearing in the legend of the Wawel dragon or Smok Wawelski. The Wawel dragon was a fearsome beast that lived beneath Wawel Hill in Krakow, demanding cattle from the town. No knight could slay it, but a clever shoemaker tricked the dragon into eating a ram stuffed with sulfur, causing it to become so thirsty that it drank too much water and exploded. Today, a famous sculpture in Krakow commemorates the legend, and the story is referenced a few times in The Witcher.
Found your dragon's nest, but I'll need bait to kill it. A sheep, for instance.
Ah, I see. Gonna stuff it with sulfur.
Another ally of the brave little shoemaker. No, I'll manage without sulfur. Just need a sheep, unseasoned.
Similarly, the legend of the Czech Bruno dragon tells of a beast that terrorized the city until a butcher tricked it into eating a hide stuffed with caustic lime, which killed it. The citizens decided to taxidermy the dragon, though if you examine it today, you might realize it's actually a crocodile. Historians believe it was likely a gift from a foreign dignitary that inspired the myth. In Romanian folklore, Balaur is a many-headed winged serpent who fights and loses to the hero Făt Frumos. It kidnaps princesses, guards treasure, and sometimes controls the weather. Lamia, a female dragon from South Slavic folklore, has multiple dog-like heads, yellow scales, and she controls rivers and crosses droughts unless you give her offerings. Though she rarely attacks first, she is very hard to kill because you have to cut off all of her heads at the same time. Mora, a night spirit from Slavic folklore, has a tendency of sitting on your chest while you sleep, causing sleep paralysis, nightmares, chest pressure, and draining your energy like living in a comic block does to me. Some believe she's a cursed soul, others say a living person with powers, and in order to protect yourself from her you have to block keyholes, windows, or sleep with an iron nearby. Muma Paduri, or the mother of the forest in Romanian folklore, protects wildlife and punishes anyone who harms the woods. She appears when people disrespect the forest or break taboos, and locals perform rituals and treat the forest carefully to avoid her. She can shift between a kind fairy and a serpent-haired monster, although people often compare her to Baba Yaga because she's also like an old lady. She is more like a female Leshy. Vilas are winged fairies from South Slavic mythology who have golden hair, white dresses, and magical singing. They live in forests, mountains, lakes, clouds, and they transform into animals like swans or wolves. And people gave them gifts to win their favor and avoid their wrath. But if you're a jerk, you might pluck her hair or feathers and be able to control them. The way they are described in stories, they kinda resemble the MILFs. Wait, the fuck? They kinda resemble the nymphs, or Valkyries in other folklore. Zana is a nature spirit from Albanian mythology who lives in forests, mountains, springs, and symbolizes beauty, power, and protection. And she is likely descendant from Illyrian and Roman warriors goddess myths. The Romanian Zene, similar fairy beings, help or curse people depending on how they are treated. Both guide travelers, punish those who disrespect nature, and they are often compared to elves or dryads in fantasy. And then there's the weird one from my region. Reisvasu Bagoy, or Copper Dick Owl, is a darkly funny figure from Transylvanian Hungarian folklore, which is nowadays mostly used as an insult, and its physical description is exactly like what the name suggests. Folklorists say that the owl actually represents an illegal abortion doctor and the copper part is the medical tool, and the story was used to warn girls about unwanted pregnancies more than anything supernatural. Over time, people started using it, saying that you should have been taken by the copper dick owl, which is just meaning that you shouldn't have been born. And it's not famous in pop culture yet, but it's still a strong inside joke in my beloved homeland, especially Kalotasek, and in a region whose people I'm currently not allowed to joke about for a few more months. If I remember correctly, a few years ago someone made like a very detailed video about this topic. Oh wait, that was me. Now let's take a step deeper into darker waters. In this tier, we look at creatures that are important in specific regions, but not very well known outside of folklore circles. For example, the Hungarian turul, which has nothing to do with Turul-doi Napoy, is a mythical bird of prey, like a large falcon, which became a central figure in Hungarian mythology, symbolizing leadership and spiritual guidance. It appears as a guardian spirit in dreams, protecting onboard children and mothers from evil. People believe that it could ward off harmful spirits during childbirth, and they saw it as a totemic ancestor of the Arpad dynasty, which is why it remains a strong national symbol in Hungary. Over time, Turul became an important symbol in Hungarian military tradition, often appearing on coats of arms. Many Hungarians claim that this is also the bird on the Transylvanian flag, but others say it just reinterprets an Austrian eagle or some sort of Dacian or Roman tradition, which is a statement I'm 100% sure won't start a violent debate in the comments. Berhinia is a spirit from Slavic folklore, often described as similar to Rusaka or as the embodiment of water itself, but she also appears as a protector of women and households. Although historically regarded more as a spirit than a goddess, in modern Ukrainian folklore, she has been reimagined as a powerful national protectress, most famously commemorated by a monument in Kiev's Independence Square. Now, Vodyanoi or Vodnik is a water spirit from Slavic folklore, seen as an old man with green hair who can shapeshift into fish or logs, and he sometimes uses shiny objects to lure victims or even disguises himself as a pretty woman. So listen up boys, don't trust pretty women near Eastern European lakes. To protect themselves from him, people used to avoid angering him and perform certain rituals for luck, and he even appears in the first Witcher game too. Similarly, Bukavac is a six-legged horned water creature with slimy skin from South Slavic folklore, and its name comes from buka, meaning noise, reflecting its terrifying roar. So make sure to avoid swamps and ponds where its cries echo at night. Now let's talk about some dudes who inspired or resemble everyone's favorite monster hunter, Gary the metrosexual fruitcake. A Vedmak is a male witch in Slavic mythology, is skilled both in healing and harmful magic, but while they might seem friendly, you have to be a bit careful because they can also spread disease and ruin crops, and their name means to know, highlighting their link to wisdom and sorcery. Kursnik is a stout Slavic shaman-like figure who leaves their body at night to fight evil, vampire-like creatures, mainly using powers for healing and community protection. Kursniks are usually raised by the vile, and they are taught to protect people and ensure good harvests. And Igor Rendich's novel A Town Called River also features Kursnik pretty prominently, and I love this book because it's set in my favorite city, Rijeka. Get it? A town called River. Rijeka literally means river. Anyways, Solomonar is a powerful ginger-haired wizard from Romanian and Bulgarian folklore, known for healing, controlling storms, possessing a magical book of wisdom, and sometimes riding dragons. You can become a Solomonar by training in a secret mystical school, using magic tools like dragon bridles and hail-making axes. So yeah, it's a ginger magician who controls winds, studies in a special school, and has a special book. Why does that sound familiar? Similarly, Karabonciás is a legendary Hungarian sorcerer and wandering student who summons storms, hail, dragons, and can shift into animals. He also studies magic at a secret wizard school and uses tools like a birch wand. And to stay safe, you have to offer him hospitality or he will punish you. Alkonost is a Slavic bird with the head of a woman living in the underworld whose song makes listeners forget everything. So make sure to carry some earplugs in case you run into her. If you follow Eurovision, you might recognize the name because Nina Krajic, who represented Croatia in 2016, uses Alkonost of Balkan as her stage name. Another bird linked to Alkonost is Stratim, a Slavic bird with a normal woman's head and is considered as the mother of all birds and helper of the wind god Stribog. She causes waves, storms with wing movements and screams, so stay clear of the ocean where she lives. And that's it for regional niches. Now let's dive even deeper into lore only people who really care about folklore know about. Have you ever wondered who are the #girl bosses of South Slavic mythology? Orisnizi are three women in folk attire who visit newborns on their third night to foretell destiny, each embodying a stage of womanhood, youth, adulthood, and maturity. Families honor them with clean homes and offerings to secure a positive prophecy. They are basically very similar to the Greek Moirai, the Croatian Vire Sucenice, and of course the Romanian Ursitare. The Ursitare are fairy godmothers who also visit 3 nights after a child's birth to determine their fate. Legend says they gain powers and immortality by drinking from the fountain of youth. In some stories they handle the threads of life, and in others they guard candles that represent people's lives. Now, families offer food or gifts to them to ensure a positive prophecy and a nice future, which my parents clearly didn't do, and the modern version of this tradition invites performers dressed as Ursitare to bless babies at baptism parties. Samodivas are winged women from South Slavic folklore who inhabit mountains and waters, and they are untransformed humans but mystical beings connected to nature's forces. And to stay safe from them, you must avoid them and resist their charms because they bring illness or madness, like spending too much time in Bulgaria does. And they guard secret healing knowledge and only reveal it to those who overhear their whispers. Mavka is a spirit from Ukrainian folklore depicted as a beautiful, long-haired forest being who appears as a young woman who has no reflection or shadow. In some tales, they are said to have no backs, revealing their insides. They dwell in forests or caves, adore flowers, and hold dances and games during spring festivals. Their origin is often traced to the soul of a young woman or child who died a tragic or unnatural death, and Makvas are known to lure men into the woods and tickle them to death, though some stories also portray them as helpful spirits who protect farmers' cattle. They featured prominently in the animated film Mavka the Forest Song, which is based on the classic Ukrainian play by Lesia Ukrainka, often called the East Slavic equivalent of Ivana Brlic Majoranic. Vântase are female forest spirits from Romanian folklore who whip up dust, storms, and winds, and you can protect yourself from them with common windgrass. And when they arrive, they send sudden gusts, so they might make you say, winds howling.
Winds howling.
The Yele are magical seductive maidens from Romanian folklore, linked to summer, fertility, and nature, who appear at night near forests or springs, punishing people through enchanted dances and songs, often during certain holidays. To avoid their wrath, you must be respectful to them, or you might end up with a strange illness that only spells or holy cures can fix. On a completely different topic, Liko is a one-eyed figure from Slavic mythology who embodies misfortune and appears as a goblin or old woman or a giant, representing bad luck and fate. In order to keep yourself safe from them, you have to never disturb or even mention them. And in some tales, the hero can outsmart it, or they need to cut off their own hand to escape from it. Now, an indie dev turned this into a game called One-Eyed Liko, which seems pretty cool, but the whole monochrome design of the game makes my ADHD brain check out without some color, so I'm not sure yet if I'm gonna check it out. In Romanian tradition, the spiriduș is a small spirit or demon that brings luck to its household. It is said to be born from an abandoned egg, kept under the armpit until it hatches and then placed in a rat pot. Before Christianization, spiriduși were regarded as nature spirits, but later they became associated with the devil. They fulfill their master's wishes, yet as servants of the devil, the master's soul is claimed after death. A spiriduș can also take the form of a magical coin that attracts wealth, created through spells performed by a witch. Karakonjula is a hideous demon from Balkan folklore who haunts people who stay out during winter nights, and he especially targets sinners and adulterers. So if you cheat on your partner, avoid wandering around at night in the Balkans. Folklores across this region feature similar creatures like the Bulgarian shape-shifting Karakonjul or Albania's armored, dead-breeding Karakanjoli. Leaders takes many forms, for example a miracle chicken, or a dead relative bringing doom, or a vampiric creature draining your life like a toxic relationship. It offers wealth and power in exchange for your soul, which isn't a fair deal but a harsh lesson on greed. But you can use birch branches or incense to protect yourself and outsmart it with tricks or give it impossible tasks. That's it for tier 5. Now let's dive into the more obscure stuff only the true folklore nerds might know. If you've been around my channel, you might recognize some of these, but believe it or not, the people who have actual lives probably never heard of this. Ali Karavitsea is a healing spirit from Estonian mythology who lives in hot springs and responds when people offer gifts and make wishes. And people call on this nature spirit by tossing coins or silver into the spring by voicing their troubles. Although it rarely shows itself, some claim they hear it whispering through the bubbling water. Lauma is a fairy-like spirit from Eastern Baltic mythology who can shapeshift into animals and protects orphans and aids childbirth, but she also punishes disrespectful men. So she's like a girl's girl, as the kids say on TikTok. Legend says that she once lived in the sky, where she ruled over rainbows, weather, and waving, but she descended to earth to witness human suffering, and that's why she defends the vulnerable, rewarding kindness, and punishes cruelty, especially towards women and children. Lithuanian mythology treats Žaltys as a sacred snake that brings luck, fertility, and protects the home. People kept this as a pet near the stove, which no thanks, I will stick to keeping cats as pets instead, but they believe that it brought wealth and good harvest. People avoided killing a Žaltys and snakes in general to prevent bad luck, and to earn its trust, people offered it milk, so in Lithuanian folklore the Žaltys stood as a symbol of prosperity and protection. Similarly, the Čuvarkuća is a white serpent in South Slavic folklore, which is a household guardian embodying ancestral spirits and protecting the home. Believed to dwell near the house, under floorboards or as steps, places connected to the dead, people avoided harming snakes and left offerings for the Čuvarkuća. Shedding its skin also symbolized renewal and the link between life and death. There's also the Vitore, which is a sacred serpent in Albanian folklore that protects the family and links to ancestors' souls. It appears as a small golden horned snake which hisses, signaling upcoming family events, or sometimes it appears as an old woman. Respecting the Vitore is believed to grant protection for people's homes, otherwise it brings bad luck or the family's demise. Permonik is a miner-like spirit from Czech and Slovak folklore who guards underground treasures. It appears to protect mines, rewards polite miners, and punishes troublemakers. Miners greet it and follow its rules to stay safe. And fun fact, if you see or hear a Permonik, it means that there's treasure nearby. The Skarbnik is also a Slavic mine spirit who guards gems, crystals, and metals. It protects miners, guides lost travelers, and sometimes reveals or your veins. If you disrespect it or act shady towards it, it might shove you into a pit or drop the tunnel on you, and whistling, throwing rocks, or covering your head could offend it, and it will start throwing dirt in your face and then brings real trouble. Plashins are human-like spirits from Romanian folklore who dwell between life and death and live sinless lives. People honor them during Paștele Plașinilor, a cemetery feast, weeks after Easter, and send them news of Easter's passing by leaving red Easter eggs in water, which is believed to reach the Plashins through Saturday's water or the water of life or whatever the correct English translation is. People in Moldavia mainly practice this tradition, echoing other Eastern European cemetery customs like the Serbian Zadušnice or the Slavic Radošnice, because, well, us Eastern Europeans can party just about anywhere. Sareva is an island spirit from Estonian mythology, tied to the sea, that guards lighthouses and welcomes visitors like a tour guide, unless you litter. As a nature spirit, he talks to plants and shapeshifts into a fox or an eagle, and generally he means no harm but won't tolerate rudeness or carelessness. And he kinda reminded me of a character from The Man Who Spoke Snakish, an Estonian fantasy novel that I absolutely love. Kivialune is a small spirit from stone caves who loves peace and solitude and can turn into stone to rest. Why does that describe me? He hides by blending into rocks and scares strangers by rolling stones, but avoids harm, so people prefer to give him space. He's basically just a chill cave guardian. But don't worry, the next tier will be weirder. If you thought you knew Eastern European mythology, Tier 7 will make you rethink everything. Pukis, not to be confused with the Lithuanian Pukis, a name for a fluffy pet, is a multi-headed serpent or dragon from Latvian folklore tied to the devil, breathing fire and flying. Legend says Pukis hatches from an egg laid by a black rooster or ancient raven, which people carry under their arm for years. The Pukis can be defeated with silver or gold bullets, prayers, crosses, or rowan wood. Similarly, the Aitvaras is a magical Lithuanian bird spirit that looks like a rooster with a fiery tail. And an old black rooster lays the rare egg from which it hatches, because seemingly Baltic people really love black cats. People try to control its influence since it steals treasures and causes misfortune, and legend says that Aitvaras transforms into a glowing spark when it dies. The Aspid is a lesser known dragon from Slavic mythology, so chances are that you never heard of it. People described it as a mix of dragon and bird or dragon and snake with two fire-breathing heads and precious stones in its body. The Aspid used to live in the mountains and cause destruction when it descended, and hunters found it hard to kill it because it needed trickery and metal traps to fend it off. One tale even says that the sun god Dashbog defeated the Aspid after it kidnapped women, possibly his daughters. An Aspid shares traits with European creatures like the cockatrice and the Aitvaras, blending animal features with magical powers. The Kushedra is a multi-headed dragon from Albanian folklore who causes storms, droughts, and destruction. It starts as a serpent and transforms into a beast over time. To appease him, people perform rituals and offerings, and the only one who could defeat it was the heroic Drange, who tames or kills it to defend himself. Lucky for him, the Kushedra's many heads have a tendency of fighting each other, giving the Drange an edge in the fight. The Drange is a winged semi-human hero from Albanian mythology who battles storms and Kushedras wielding lightning and thunder as weapons. Dranges gain their wings and powers at birth, making them nearly invincible, and they protect people from storms and droughts and sometimes hide among them. Their clashes with the Kushedra symbolize the struggle between good and evil and light against darkness. Chatej is a half-goat, half-human forest spirit from Slovenian folklore who steals crops, grapes and wine and protects nature and shifts sizes at will. Now, despite being a trickster, he sometimes helps lost travelers, and he is born from nature itself, and he punishes those who disrespect it but rewards kindness with food or water. So usually people avoid offending him to stay on his good side. The Bludichka is a Slavic spirit who appears as blue lights in swamps and cemeteries, and people think that they are lost souls. They show up on winter nights and lure travelers off safe paths, especially if you mock them, but they sometimes lead the lost to safety or to treasure. To protect yourself from them, you have to wear your shirt inside out and avoid being rude to them. Similarly, the Postvečari are ethereal floating flames from Croatian mythology, often seen over swamps and rivers. They are believed to be the souls of unbaptized children or other people caught between heaven and hell. These restless spirits wander endlessly, unable to find peace. Divje Dekle from northern Croatian folklore are eerie, naked, hairy women who scream and wail like your mom.
Got it!
They are said to haunt the forests and scare travelers, and occasionally they sneak into barns when hungry, especially in winter. And honestly, I really want to know what inspired their story. Vadleány, meaning wild girl, but not wild, are forest spirits from Hungarian folklore, resembling nymphs with long hair and sharp fingernails who lure wanderers and drain their strength. Since they are wild girls born in the forest, they cannot understand ordinary human objects, so you can trick them by leaving your boots in their path, because out of curiosity they will try to put both of their feet into a single boot and get stuck. With that said, you earned your badge as a true myth explorer, but are you ready to go even deeper? This is where the real obsessions start. The myths only the most dedicated mythology fans know. Banik is a Slavic bathhouse spirit, usually appearing as a small naked old man covered in birch leaves who strangles anyone who disrespects him. He isn't human, just a shapeshifter who might appear as a person, a stone, or a lump of coal, and people leave fir branches, water, or soap to stay on his good side. Now, some subscribers speculate that the legend probably started from a real Slavic uncle who strangles someone, and later when people questioned him, he was like, "Me? No, that was the spirit who did it," because he was a dickhead. Topolevic, a Slavic field spirit with grass hair and mismatched eyes, haunts fields at noon or at sunset, and he hates drunk people napping in the grass. People give him odd offerings like eggs, rooster, toad, and a crow, and basically he's a gender-bending team knockoff of Poludnica. Anshutka is an evil Slavic spirit that lurks in bathhouses, fields, and waters, causing trouble and misfortune. They are known to leave footprints, missing the left heel as a result of a wolf bite that gave them a limp. If you want to avoid encountering them, be careful not to mention their name and treat it like Voldemort or Bloody Mary. Now, people used to soothe Anshutka with milk and honey offerings. The Hala or Ala is a shape-shifting weather demon from South Slavic folklore, causing storms and hails, but it can also bring good luck. Similarly to the Romanian Vârcolac, the Hala can cause eclipses by trying to swallow the sun or the moon, and people use spells, herbs, and rituals to protect themselves from it. Chuma is the South Slavic plague spirit who appears as a white-haired old woman in white with a clay bowl and arrows. She often targets dirty homes, so people scrubbed their houses and left offerings for her, like food, water, basil, or a comb to keep her away. And many people avoided saying her name and called her auntie or godmother instead. And let's be honest, she clearly staged a solid comeback in 2020. Milošnice are evil spirits in Slavic folklore that cause sickness and plague, often shown as rat-like creatures using magical wheelchairs. They are linked to Likoratka, a female spirit who brings fever, causing 12 different diseases. Great! More suspects for 2020. People thought that they could avoid illnesses by giving offerings to these spirits, and maybe we should have tried that too. The Kukud is an Albanian spirit tied to nightmares and sings like owls and cuckoos who take the form of a short man with a goat's tail. Legend says Kukud is the restless spirit of a miser like you who haunts his own home, unwilling to part with his earthly possessions. Only the brave confront it to earn a reward, and he can only be killed by a wine noose. Soklev is a demon from Bosnian and Montenegrin myths with a human body, horse legs, and dog heads with iron teeth and a single eye. It dwells in gem-filled caves and hunts humans, digging up graves for corpses. The legend likely arose from ancient fears of death and the unknown, serving as a warning about hidden dangers lurking in the dark. Kopkon is a creature from Romanian mythology with two heads or a dog's head on a human body and can shapeshift into bears or deer. Its name means head and dog, and people also use this phrase to refer to Tatar or pagan leaders. And this creature lives in dark, lifeless lands with dangerous creatures, just like my apartment, and Kopkon kidnaps princesses and stands as a tough villain, and even the hero Fötpumos sometimes fails to defeat it in tales. So if you meet one, don't fight, just run and don't even look back. And fun fact, Romanians use Kopkon as a word for ogre in the translation of the Shrek series. Balachko is a three-headed giant from Serbian folklore who blasts freezing wind from one head and spits fire from another. And when I say spits fire, think Dark Souls boss, not like Kendrick, but that would be pretty cool though. It would give the phrase rap battle a whole new meaning. Balachko famously appears in Dušanov's Wedding, a Serbian folk epic where he tries to kidnap the bride, which is pretty standard for an average Serbian wedding if you ask me. But the hero Miloš uses his strength and cleverness to defeat the beast and save the wedding. With that said, you made it through the darkest depths of Eastern European mythology, so your myth mastery is now legend, wait for it, dairy.
Legendary!
Eastern European mythology is a deep, tangled forest of stories full of strange creatures, eerie encounters, and ancient spirits, traditions passed down through generations. From village legends to forgotten horrors buried in folklore, this region's mythological landscape is as diverse as its history. And yet, most of these tales remain hidden beneath the surface, overshadowed by Western portrayals or simplified through pop culture like The Witcher. But if this iceberg has shown anything, is that there's still so much more to discover. So I hope in this video I help you shine a light on just how weird, wonderful, and haunting Eastern European mythology can be. And if you want more content about this topic, you can find some in the mythology section of Meet the Slavs or mythologica.ro and the Lamus Dworsky blog, or YouTube channels like Crowhack, The Mythology Dude, and Folkwalk. I also have a YouTube shorts series called Mythology Monday, where I talk about each of these creatures every Monday on all platforms, so you can check those out too. Which of these creatures creeped you out the most? Or do you know any local legends that I missed? Drop a comment with your answers. Shout out to my favorite subscribers. I really appreciate your support. Thanks for tuning in and have a nice day.